Hello and a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on in to lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com. That's not Claibs, though. That's Howard Richards. Claibs somewhere on a cruise ship. I think he's on the Cardinal Cruise this week, hanging out with Danny Cox and a bunch of other guys.
Don't you feel sorry for him? I mean, what a
Right.
tough life Mike Claiborne leads. I told him I'd volunteer at any time to kind of help him out with these things if it just became too much for him. But I don't know, it's just so difficult for him. I guess he just can't call either one of us to fill in for him. So until then,
Right.
he'll just have to suffer.
Right. When it's snowing here on Wednesday and we're all having trouble getting out of our driveways, just remember Claibs is somewhere on a cruise ship, somewhere in the I don't even know where they go off on the cruise, right? Where that Cardinal Cruise is going, but he's off there somewhere enjoying himself this week down in some warmer weather. That being said, hey, you had yourself a nice night last night. Dave Chappelle, Chris Rock. I've heard mixed reviews on that whole experience, so I want to hear it from somebody that was there.
I'm not sure what you heard, but Dave Chappelle was as good as advertised, as far as I'm concerned. I was fortunate enough to be 2 rows from the stage, so close that when Dave lit up a cigarette, I could smell it. Now, I'm not saying that to be boastful or anything like that, but it's sort of one of those once in a blue moon opportunities when even though it cost me a pretty penny for that seat. It was worth it to see. I mean, I could see I could see the teeth whitening on Chris Rock's teeth. That's how close I was. And Chris started out a little slow, but he finished strong. I think for the most part, for me, I was happy with it. I don't know that I'd pay what I paid to see any other comic.
I think we lost Howard there for just a second on his connection as he's paused there. I think we lost you there as towards the end there, Howard. But I was going to say the one, I think some of the mixed reviews, and maybe this would have been where I came from with this. I've never been to a show where you had to give up your cell phone, put it away. And I know there were long lines getting into the building because of that. And I know that was something that the people knew they had to do, but maybe just weren't familiar with how the process went.
Well, it was my first experience too, and I had no idea until we're standing there like, what's taking so long? Well, that was what took so long. And I can understand why they do it, for copyright stuff. But can you imagine if the weather was horrible, raining, snowing outside, people were waiting these long lines, and so there needs to be a way to help streamline that process. But outside of that, I don't have any complaints at all. So I was happy with the whole setup. I didn't really hear anyone else complaining about it. And I think if they had advertised that when people bought their tickets, kind of explain the process, I think it would have been maybe a little more palatable for everyone. So I didn't learn about it until we're standing in line. One of the people that a friend of a friend was there and said, "Yeah, this is how they do it." So okay, anyway. But I was able to follow the progress of the Cowboys 49ers game thanks to my Apple Watch. So I was looking at the end of the third quarter, the score was tied at 9. I'm thinking, we got a shot here. This could work out. But needless to say, I'm glad I had the distraction of the comedy show to drown my sorrows in, because my plan was, if the Cowboys won, to come back home after the show, stay up and watch the replay, but I didn't even bother turning it on. So,
well, yeah, I didn't know you were at the show either, as I was texting you late in the game as it was coming down to the wire, and the play that has people talking today is what the Cowboys did at the end of the game. And looking at it, when it happened originally, when they're going out there and they're saying, all right, probably too far for a Hail Mary, and they lined up, and you hear the announcers say, Zeke's lining up at center, thinking, what the hell? And then you look at it and you kind of start thinking, okay, I get what they're trying to do. I understand the process, I understand what they're going for in this play. And then just watching it, I don't know if it was as comical as the Colts attempted fourth down sneak in that famous Sunday night game against the Patriots. I don't think we're at that level yet, but the video of Zeke getting blown up after snapping the ball is just going to live in that poor man's career for the rest of his life.
Yeah, no doubt. I did hear about it. I'm going to just go back and catch the replay of it. But why would you have someone that is a good receiver coming out of the backfield, someone with sure hands? Why wouldn't you have all available people that could catch a Hail Mary attempt? Why wouldn't he be available to do so? It just seems like
they were too far away for the so they were too far away for the Hail Mary. So the plan was just a bunch of hook and ladders and laterals.
Exactly.
So the idea was to get as many fast athletes as you could out on the field, and knowing that once a receiver caught it, then he could lateral it to Zeke. And I think that was the idea, was to have as many skill players out there as possible, thus having one of those skill players snap the ball. So, and in the thought process, in the in the coaches' meetings and maybe in the film room talking about it, the idea probably sounded really good. But when you watch the execution of it, not so great. So,
you're not going to fool a bunch of people in these situations. Anyone coaching at this level has virtually seen it all, if not, mostly all of it. But just at the outset, well, he's snapping the ball, so whatever they run, he's not going to be an eligible receiver or anything like that. So you automatically give the defense a little bit of an advantage there, as opposed to having, a lineman snap the ball and having him out on a wing or someplace else. I don't know. We could quarterback the Monday morning quarterback this to death, but it's not going to change the bottom lines that the Cowboys will be watching from out next week.
So the game before that, though, I think was the shocker of the divisional round, when not so much of the Bengals won, because Joe Burrow now he has not lost at all in his career on the AFC side of the playoffs. Now 5-0 in his playoff games leading into his loss last year at the Super Bowl. But when you look at just how bad the Bills looked yesterday and how bad Josh Allen looked yesterday, I know Sean McDermott came out last night and said he was out-coached, but my goodness, that just seeing how dominated the Buffalo Bills were in that game, I think was pretty shocking to anybody that saw it.
Well, and I think the biggest difference, and we talk about playoff football, to me there are two tenets that have to be in place. A, can't turn the football over, and B, in the playoffs, must be able to run the football. You've got to be able to do that. Buffalo could not run it, and the Bengals pretty much ran with ease. They, with Pirine and Mixon, they were able to do virtually what they wanted to do. They were just really running the ball, getting big chunks of yards. Buffalo had no answer, which was a surprise. And the worst part about it is that Cincinnati was doing so with, three new starters. 3 out of the 5 of the regular starters that had been together for, I think, virtually at least 15 starts of the season, they weren't even in the lineup. And so knowing that going in, I just assumed, probably like many of other people, that it would be Buffalo's day, especially playing in the elements in Buffalo. But here's the thing. This is why they play the games, and you can never – there are no guarantees in the playoffs. Listen, if you can't do the basics, and I know running backs are undervalued in this league. I'm not sure why, but in the playoffs, you've got to be able to move the football. And not just in the playoffs, but if you want balance, if you want to be able to have an effective offense, you can't be one-dimensional. And essentially that is what turned the tables for the Bengals, because they made Buffalo become one-dimensional. Buffalo's biggest running threat was the quarterback, Josh Allen. And at some point, you risk injury to your franchise quarterback. But also, that if they need big yards, he's the guy that's going to be the one that's going to run it so you can kind of key in on him. When you know who's going to get the ball, who's going to run the rock, it makes it a lot easier for your defense because you can't, you're only going to be able to do a certain amount of things. But, give credit to the Bengals for going into Buffalo and basically owning the Bills on their own home turf. It was an outstanding performance, by Cincinnati. And you, do you consider them the favorite going into Kansas City for the championship game, especially with a gimpy Patrick Mahomes? I don't know. I mean, it's going to be
Vegas does right now. So if you look at where the money is right now, it's on Cincinnati. And X-rays came back negative on the ankle of Patrick Mahomes, but as we know, a high ankle sprain is one of the worst injuries you can get as a professional athlete when it comes to the recovery time, because you don't know what that recovery time is, and you can wrap it. You can do whatever you want when it happens in a game right away, and he can play on it, and the adrenaline can just pump through his body and allow him to finish off those final 2 quarters. But you know what? How did it feel Sunday? How does it feel today? What is he capable of doing right now? And I think I would imagine that it would take an awful lot for Patrick Mahomes to not be active or starting in the game on Sunday. The question is, how effective will he be? Is he now just a pocket passer, Patrick Mahomes?
Mm-hmm. The one thing he does have on his side is youth. So his ability to recover from this type of injury is going to be, I would assume, the fact that he was able to come back on Sunday, I would assume would be much better than if he were an older player because he can recover that much more quickly. He'll essentially have the week. They will certainly limit his ability to be on the field. And at this point, no one knows the offense better than Patrick. He probably knows it better than Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy at this point. He's just smart, just completely savvy, has a great grasp of the game, and I'm not worried about what he could do from that standpoint. It's just a matter of getting those reps in, which is what you kind of need at this point, just to become sharp. Make sure your offense is running on all cylinders. But, the backup quarterback was able to come in and kind of keep the train rolling until Patrick was able to get back in there. So they didn't miss much. But, you're talking about a different level at this point going into the AFC Championship game, playing against a red-hot Cincinnati Bengals team. That seems
so
very determined.
as we sit here today, Howard, on this Monday, the 23rd, it will be 2 weeks from today. I'll be out on Radio Row in Phoenix for Super Bowl 57, brought to you by Munganaz St. Louis Acura, Munganaz Alton Toyota, Fast Eddie's Bon Air, Western Illinois University, and Trice Consulting. Be out there all week long, all of the events going on surrounding the Super Bowl. But next 2 weeks from today, it'll be media night. All of the players will be there from the that'll be participating in the game. Which 2 teams do you think will be representing their conferences at Super Bowl 57?
If I had to pick today, I'd say the Philadelphia Eagles. And given the status, the unknown status with Mahomes, I'd give a slight edge, maybe by 1.5 to 3 points max to the Cincinnati Bengals. Just because of their defense, I think gives them the slight advantage. Offensively, listen, Patrick's been there. Burrow has been there a year ago in the Super Bowl, but, just had his struggles and his offensive line couldn't protect him. And against, I'd say a very Jekyll and Hyde type of Kansas City defense, which defense will show up against the Bengals. So, again, if Mahomes were healthy, I'd be picking the Chiefs. I just think right now, with the unknown status, the edge, the advantage, I think might go to the Bengals at this point.
And on the other side, that 49ers Eagles, the Eagles just continue to play, they play winning football week in and week out. You look at the stats from the game on Saturday, nothing flashy. Nothing stands out. Jalen Hurts, potential MVP this year in the NFL, didn't have an MVP type game. He went out there and he did what he needed to do to win the game on Saturday. Didn't need to put the team on his shoulders and carry them for that. The defense did what they were supposed to do. How will all of that compare to the offensive firepower that we see the San Francisco's 49ers have with a quarterback that has yet to be beaten in the NFL in Brock Purdy?
I think the matchup will be quite interesting. The age of these two quarterbacks, assuming it would be San Francisco and Philadelphia. I mean, Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy played against each other in college. With Purdy playing at Iowa State and Hurts at Oklahoma after he transferred from Alabama. So that's an interesting matchup in and of itself. Hurts, I think his vindication for what happened to him at Alabama, being yanked for Tua, and then Tua coming in and throwing a winning touchdown in the national championship game, and Hurts having to go through what he went through, leaving the team, but was always supportive, never badmouthed anyone, quietly went and got the job done, ended up being a Heisman finalist, and now he's getting his vindication. He's outplaying Tua, who's had his some medical issues with the Miami Dolphins. But Jalen Hurts, his ascent to where he is now has been steady from the time he entered the league into where he is now. Now he's talking about, I think he probably is the most valuable player in the NFL this year. So you have to feel proud for him. And he does it quietly. He doesn't do it with a bunch of fanfare. And I'm just very happy for him for what he's been able to accomplish. And I say that being a Dallas Cowboys, a former Cowboys player and a fan of the team, I like how the Eagles have been put together. Howie Roseman has done a great job as general manager of assembling a bunch of playmakers at virtually every position on the field, from tight ends to running backs to outside receivers to the defense. He has done it the right way. And listen, giving credit where it's due, the Eagles look like the best team in football from my vantage point.
He's Howard Richards. I'm Joe Roderick. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, a little baseball news and notes to get to from the past week, and something to look ahead at for this week as well. Howard in for Claibs. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura here on ClaibsOnline.com.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. We have over 200 vehicles on hand and in transit. Get the new 2023 MDX or Integra with up to $1,000 in loyalty. Rebates and financing as low as 3.9% for 60 months. You can also lease the 2023 MDX for as low as $599 a month. Or get a pre-owned certified MDX with 3.99% financing. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe. Howard Richards in for Mike Claiborne this week. Howard, you're familiar when the NFL each and every year comes out with their top 100 list. They go from 100, they go to 1. It makes for weeks of TV, and it leads to all kinds of debates as far as who the best players in the NFL are. Well, the MLB Network is doing their own version of that. Instead of going top 100 players right now, they are going the top 10 in each position. They're going position by position all around baseball. Last week, for example, Paul Goldschmidt was named the number 1 first baseman in all of baseball. Makes sense. Defending National League MVP, has put up year after year, puts up the consistent numbers. Makes sense. Nolan Arenado, who they can already start making his plaque in Cooperstown, is arguably the best defensive third baseman of all time and finished third in the NL MVP voting last year. MLB Network listed him as the 5th best third baseman in all of baseball. Not 5th best player in all of baseball. That you could look at and you go, okay, yeah, 5th best player in all. No, 5th best third baseman in all of baseball for Nolan Arenado, listing in front of him Manny Machado, Rafael Devers, Jose Ramirez, and finally on that list, I just had it in front of me just the other day. It was I'll get to it here in a second. But 5th overall best third baseman in all of baseball. I don't understand how that happens unless they just kind of threw it out there because they wanted people to get mad and debate it.
Well, I'm not so sure how much, and this is not necessarily a knock against sports writers, those that vote. I don't know how much they actually see other players outside of the teams they cover on a regular basis. So, just to say, if you're an American League sports writer for the Boston Red Sox, how often will you see the St. Louis Cardinals and what Nolan Arenado does? Probably not that much if you're doing your job the way you're supposed to. So I'm always skeptical about the accuracy of some writers. Not all. Some get it right. I mean, we have a Hall of Fame writer here in St. Louis, in the commish.
Who's now a member of ClaibsOnline.com, yeah.
Exactly. And I think his perspectives are like almost always on point. And he casts a wide net when it comes to the total picture of baseball. Even when I remember back in the day when you go to a Cardinals baseball game and you could vote for the All-Star player, right? You can vote like 65 times if you wanted to. The fans are only going to vote for their favorite players. They're not voting for the best players necessarily at that position. So to me, the best judge of who the best players are, or of course, are other, to me, baseball personnel, players and managers, the ones that are competing against each other all the time. Those tend to be, I think, the voting polls or voting results that I put the most stock in, because those are the ones that mean the most. I mean, as a football player, I remember getting Pro Bowl votes in '83 from the other players. Not enough to make the Pro Bowl, but it felt good that your peers felt strongly enough to vote for you, because they're the ones that you're going up against every day. They're the ones that, to me, that know the most. So I don't put a lot of stock into the fact that whoever is making the judgment calls on Arenado being 5th best, they just haven't seen enough of him to really understand it. So you just kind of, for me, throw it out the window. We kind of know how good the guy is. But how about, speaking of third baseman, how about someone that's going to be on the Hall of Fame ballot for tomorrow? Scott Rowland, who was an outstanding third baseman for the baseball Cardinals. And if I'm not mistaken, his numbers are looking pretty good as far as getting in. You need 70%, and he's hovering somewhere between 79 and 81%. So let's hope that holds, and he gets a chance to be voted in as the next Baseball Hall of Famers.
Yeah, there is. I'm trying to find who, because there is somebody on Twitter. It's Ryan Thibodeau, not Mr. Tibbs is his name on Twitter. He tracks Hall of Fame ballots. So a lot of times writers like Derek Gould, I saw earlier today, Derek Gould posted his ballot. He posted who he voted for in his ballot. A lot of times people will do that. They will either send them to him and has to remain anonymous, or they'll post it on their own Twitter, and he keeps track of who is of what it is out there. So right now, 181 ballots have been sent into Ryan Thibodeau, and so far you could see that Scott Rowland is trending upwards. So Scott Rowland right now is trending to be voted into the Hall of Fame after finishing so close last year in there. Those come out tomorrow for that. So Scott Rowland last year had 69.4%. This year right now tracking at 78.9% of the votes for this year. So it does look like Scott Rowland will be your next Hall of Famer. Todd Helton, too. Todd Helton jumped from 57.2 votes to 79.4% of the ballots that Todd Helton's been on. So it looks like fans, or I guess writers, are finally over the whole Colorado bias of hitting in Denver for his entire career. Guys that might end up close tomorrow: Andruw Jones, Gary Sheffield, Billy Wagner, all of them are kind of right around that 70% mark, but you need 75% to make it into the Hall of Fame. Those will they'll come out tomorrow night. We'll find out who makes the Hall of Fame, and it'll be another number to retire on the wall of Busch Stadium when he gets in as well.
And the thing about Scott Rowland, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". Scott Rowland's got to be at least 6'4", if not 6'5". When I stand next to him, you just think, man, this guy, for a third baseman, his mobility was incredible, and certainly he could field and he could hit. You don't really think of third baseman being the size of him. You look at him and think, he's probably a first baseman, maybe a pitcher, maybe an outfielder, but a big man, but with great athleticism. And his character, his personality he's kind of quiet and humble, and you just feel good about someone like that dedicated himself and made such sacrifice to be such a great player, and also being a great teammate. You just hope that he gets a legitimate shot of getting in and getting his just due.
And you hear stories every year now. He is back home in Jasper, Indiana. You hear stories of teams that will go out there, youth baseball teams that go out for a tournament there, and they're amazed, they're shocked to see that Scott Rowland is out there dragging fields before the game. Man made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars playing the game of baseball, and he's just back home in Indiana, just helping youth baseball fields out there, and still just finding ways to help grow the game.
Doing what he loves to do, and when you are blessed in a particular area, to me, to further those blessings and continuing to give back is just the ultimate. So I applaud him. I applaud him for what he has meant to the game, and certainly what he's meant to the Cardinals and the city of St. Louis.
Well, Howard, that's going to wrap it up. It's one of those down weeks in sports. We're down to just 4 teams left in the NFL, and once that's over with, that's when basketball really starts to pick up. Oh, I should before we get out of here, ask your thoughts on what we saw Shannon Sharp do the other day out there on the sidelines at the Lakers Grizzlies game the other day. Did you happen to catch what Unk did in that trying to fight the whole Grizzlies roster?
I heard about it. I didn't see it. I just don't understand what he was doing. Maybe he had a little too much bourbon or cognac, whatever it is that he likes so much. I don't know, but I don't get it. Sometimes I think some people just kind of get in the way of themselves and draw that type of attention. I mean, it's certainly, I don't think it's a good look for him. And why? And what's the point of it? Just go to the game and let the attention be on the players. Don't draw that type of attention to yourself. So I don't know. Sometimes it's just better to turn off the TV, turn off all the sports, and just focus on something else instead of everyone else trying to become a newsmaker.
Well, Howard, thank you so much for filling in for Claibs today. We will touch base with you before the Super Bowl after we find out who will be playing in it after the games this weekend. He is Howard Richards. You can catch him on Huddle Up with Howard every week here on Claibs Online. I'm Joe Roderick. We will talk to you next week here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on ClaibsOnline.com.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.